This is Cars and Bids, and today I am reporting to you from the Cars and Bids YouTube channel. And I want to talk about a few recent auctions on Cars and Bids, some interesting highlights. Now this channel is going to kind of have a market report where I discuss recent car auctions, and over the next few weeks I'm going to branch into some other types of videos. Maybe I talk about cars that are going up in value or cars that have become bargains, whatever. But for now, let's talk about some recent sales on Cars and Bids. Okay, a big recent sale we had was a 2002 BMW X5 that had a manual transmission and it was lifted with off-road tires. And there were some other really cool modifications here too. A red interior, some cosmetic upgrades from the performance model of this car, some cool off-roady wheels. It was awesome. This sold for $12,700. Now, by comparison, we had a manual X5 sold a couple weeks earlier without any off-roady stuff, just a regular one, and it sold for $53,50. Now, obviously they're not identical cars, but the point remains, off-roady stuff is cool. And before you think that sale was just a fluke, let's talk Porsche Cayenne. We sold a 2006 Porsche Cayenne S that had also been modified for off-roading and turned into a clone of the Cayenne Trans-Siberia rally car, which was also a trim level of the Cayenne that was offered later. It was really well done, turned into this Trans-Siberia clone, lifted suspension, rear-mounted spare, bigger tires, some other stuff, paint. It was really neat. This also brought huge money, $13,100, which is way more than you would pay for an 06 Cayenne S with 140,000 miles. But this was way cooler than a regular 06 Cayenne S with 140,000 miles. So I'm gonna say it right now so you can hear it very clearly. This trend of off-roadifying vehicles is really hot right now. You've seen it with Safari 911s, now it's trickling down to other cars that I think frankly are more interesting, and it is really, really, really hot. Both of these cars went way over their reserve prices. They inspired huge excitement and interest on social media. Facebook, Twitter blew up with these cars. This is a trend in the car world right now. It is happening. And if you want to get good money for your mom's old Honda Pilot, jack it up, throw on some mud tires, and make it into a convincing off-roader. Now, you have to do it well. The Cayenne and the X5, they were both really nicely converted. They had been really well done. But I think good off-road builds bring money. Not just Safari 911s, but cool cars of any ilk. A Cayenne that's an off-roader, an X5, that's neat, it's interesting. And the excitement and the interest these cars generated clearly proves that. So watch this world of off-road builds. I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of beginning to simmer and bubble up. Next up, we sold some real exotic cars on the site in the last couple of weeks. Quite a few of them, in fact. Mercedes-AMG GTS sold a 2016 model for $70,000. That is an enormous amount of car for $70,000. I mean, seriously. The thing had 17,000 miles, 16,000 miles, it's only 4 years old. It looks exactly like the new one, drives like the new one, and the new one is what, 120, 130, 140? And even that is kind of a deal given the performance that it offers. Well, this is half that. It's Porsche Cayman money for a truly impressive V8, like near exotic car. We also sold the Ferrari 360 Spider. This was a Euro spec car that had been federalized into the US, sold it for $66,000. Good money all around. Buyer and seller should be happy with that figure. We sold a 2009 Aston Martin Vantage Roadster for $55,000. Another good exotic car for very approachable money. These are fun cars, beautiful, top-down thrills, fun, fast, they sound good. And then maybe most interesting, we sold a 2002 Maserati Spider with no reserve for just under $19,000. I was thrilled with this seller's decision to go no reserve, and he did well because of it. No reserve cars consistently bring more money, more excitement, more interest. People are just far more excited by them. And this one was a nice Maserati. The Spider is the best looking Maserati from this era. The manual transmission was great. The sale price was nice, right in line with expectations. But 4 good sales of exotic cars in a week or two, that's a big benefit for Cars and Bids. And I'm really, really happy about that. I thought it would take months or maybe a year before we got to the point where people trusted us to buy and sell exotic cars at this price point, $70,000, $60,000, $50,000. But we're only a couple of months into Cars and Bids, and that's already becoming a pretty frequent occurrence here. And it's so cool. It's so exciting for me to be able to see that. And I'm so proud of what we've all been able to accomplish in the cars we've been able to get. And it's it just makes me really, really happy and really exciting. The variety and is really neat, and it really does run the gamut from 1980s weird mobiles to actual high-dollar exotic cars like these. But anyway, on that topic, we have done very well with Enthusiast Wagons recently. My favorite sale over the last few weeks was probably this Rebel Blue Volvo V60 Polestar. This is an incredibly special and rare car. All of the S60 and V60 Polestar models from this era were cool, and we sold a couple of S60s that were great. But the V60 is especially cool because it's blue, for one thing. This was kind of the Polestar color, but most people who bought these cars, they were too afraid to actually get this color. They weren't daring enough to actually order it. And then this is a 2016 model as well, which means you get the 6-cylinder engine. Now, this next model year, they came out with a 4-cylinder that had more power, but a lot of people think that the 6-cylinder was more potent and just felt quicker and more powerful. So this is the rare 1-year-only 6-cylinder in the wagon body style in this crazy color. So you have the blue, the wagon, the 1 year, and the seller had these really cool rally-style wheels on it. Anyway, it brought $37,000. Now that's huge money for a Volvo wagon that's aging, but these are so rare. And I guarantee the bidders on this car knew they weren't going to find another one. If you want a blue V60 Polestar from 16, you might be waiting a year for the next one. The market is so small on these, and each sale sort of sets a new benchmark. It's not like Camrys where thousands of them sell every day at wholesale, so you get the miles and the VIN, you know exactly what it's worth. These cars, their value depends on kind of who's in the room and who's looking for one. And in this case, people really wanted $37,000. That's the value for this car. I don't think that price is out of the realm at all. I think it's totally reasonable considering the rarity and just how special these cars are. And I wouldn't be surprised if these keep their value quite well, even compared to other Polestar models from this era. But in addition to that Enthusiast wagon, we also sold 2 AMG wagons recently. This 2015 model in Canada sold for just under $50,000 US dollars, and this 2016 model in California sold for $60,000. Both prices were totally market correct. But again, I guess I'm just thrilled that Cars and Bids is already a platform for cars of this caliber. These are such cool and special cars, and I'm happy we have the chance to sell them. And also, these sales just continue to show that if you're getting an E63, especially new, you should be buying the wagon. The wagons are retaining their value so much better than the sedans. On the used market, they're just considered to be more special, more unique, more car person, and people pay a huge premium for the used wagons. If you want to retain your value when you're buying an E63, the wagon is the way to go. If you think, oh, it's a few thousand more, will it really be worth it? The answer is you're going to lose that few thousand and more on the used market when you go to sell. So just pony up and get the wagon. It is worth it. And of course, this is also true of the CTS-V wagon, which we've also recently had 2 of. There's a black one and a white one. The white one's auction is still going on as I film this. I think it may end by the time it goes up. But the black one recently sold. It did well, and it's neat to see. And again, I'm thrilled to have it. We've basically sold all of the modern high-performance Enthusiast wagons just within the last 2 weeks. Next up, I want to discuss a 1999 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX. This is a really, really special car. It was an Eclipse from this era with a manual transmission, a turbo, and all-wheel drive and unmodified. The GSX all-wheel drive turbo. This must be the last one of these left in existence. They were all modified. Now, the seller of this car initially agreed to sell it with a reserve. When he realized the bids were coming in pretty fast, there was a lot of interest, he ditched the reserve. He emailed his person that he works with and he said, forget it, we can go no reserve. In our experience, this is almost always the right move. No reserve auctions almost always bring the most money. In our experience, this is especially true for a desirable car like this one. A car that was always going to do well. E46 M3s and E39 M5s, cars that you're never gonna end at $10. Like obviously people will be bidding on it. No reserve, it just gets people more excited and more interested and gets the bids flowing and people talking a lot more. And in this case, it was a great example of that. Eclipse GSX all-wheel drive, not turbo, non-modified. This is like the car that anybody interested in a second-gen DSM is looking for. And so of course it got passed around on all the forums and it was always gonna sell. So no reserve was the right call. When you took the reserve off, it got even more bids and it ended up at $13,400, which is a great result for a car like this. And I really think had the seller kept the reserve on, it would have brought maybe 11 or 12,000. When you go no reserve, you just bring so much more excitement and energy, and everybody knows this bid might win it. And it just tends to lead to more action. That's generally what we see. More bids, more comments, more views on the auction, more people are there. Okay, next one, Aston Martin Rapide. We sold this 2011 Aston Rapide with a $220,000 sticker price for just $45,250. Now, there's nothing particularly remarkable here. That was priced about in line with where the market is. The remarkable thing is the fact that that price is about in line with where the market is. It is truly amazing to me that you can buy an Aston Martin Rapide, one of the most beautiful modern luxury, head-turning, you know, point at it, look at it, modern luxury sedans for 45 grand. And I know the fear here is that they'll be unreliable, they'll be problematic to own, but man, I don't know. I would put up with some problems if it meant that I could get a V12 Aston luxury sedan for the price of a nicely equipped Toyota Avalon. I think I would handle some issues. And also, everyone I know who has one of these or a similar car, DB9, they say they haven't really had that many problems. I had a V8 Vantage from this era of Aston Martin, and it didn't really have any issues. There were some hiccups right at the start, but then I drove it across the country and back, put almost 20,000 miles on it in 1 year, and it was surprisingly reliable. So who knows? Maybe they're not so bad. Of course, it's a bit of a gamble, but for 45 grand for a car like this, it just seems like a deal. Even though I know where the market is, again, that's market price, but it just seems like a deal. It's incredible that that car has gotten to that price point. Okay, next up, just a few quick takes. Gonna spend just a few seconds on each of the next few cars. 2006 Pontiac GTO, the 6-speed manual. This sold for $20,350, big money for a GTO, but this is a really perfect car. It was perfect in every way. Final model year, manual transmission, really cool color, under 20,000 miles, no accidents on the history report. Truly, let me know if you bought this car, let me know if you're in Southern California. I would kill to review it. This is the one I want to review with the color that would pop in the thumbnail. I would do anything to review it. Please reach out if you're in this area. Next up, manual transmission 2011 Saab 9.5, 6-speed manual final 9.5. I had no idea they even made these cars, but apparently they did. Insanely few, just 150 of them for the whole US market. This one sold for $14,500. That is huge money for a final era 9.5. But I truly believe this might be one of the best final 9.5s in existence. Manual transmission, reasonable miles, accident-free history report, small tune for more power. You're not going to be finding another one. So it made sense that this one brought good money. Next up, my Nissan S Cargo came up for sale. Japanese import, looked like a snail, and they named it S Cargo as a play off the word escargot, French for snail. One of the best cars I've ever owned, deeply regret selling it. And actually, I would have considered bidding on this one to buy it back, except I have this rule that I can only bid on no reserve auctions because otherwise I have more information than the other people participating. So this car had a reserve, so I couldn't bid. It didn't sell for $5,300, although I'm told we did put together a deal with the buyer and seller after the fact. I don't blame the owner for not selling it at this number. It's worth more than that, and when the amount we did reach was higher than this. But I'm also not surprised it didn't sell. It has a wrap. It's in the middle of the country. It's a bit of a long ship from Kansas. I assume there's not a huge market for imported Japanese city vans in Kansas. I truly miss that car. We actually had someone else pitch us one, submit one that they asked for no reserve on. And I accepted it instantly. And I said, yes, I'm going to be able to bid on this. And then he didn't follow through. He sent us pictures, but he was never able to complete the listing. He maybe sold it locally or something like that, which is too bad because I was ready to buy that one. But maybe one day I'll have an S Cargo again. Finally, the Eurovan auction. We had a no-reserve Volkswagen Eurovan. It was a great seller throughout the entire process. Very responsive, very nice, took good pictures, gave us all the information. He was just great. So the auction is ending, and in the final minutes, you guys know what happens if you've seen this already. Crazy bidding war. It's at $6,000, it's at $6,100, $6,200, etc. $6,600, and then the next bid that comes in is $67,000. Obviously, this was an error, but the auction ends. Nobody's going to outbid that. And everyone's thinking, well, you know, what happened? What do we do now? Couple things to note here. First off, this is the first time this has ever happened. We have had a few misbids. Someone tries to enter $10,000, but they enter $100,000 or something. It happens, but usually it happens like with a few days left, or at least with a few hours left. We have some time to respond, we cancel the bid, we move on. It's no big deal, we've done it a bunch. Well, in this case, it happened with a minute left in the auction. Now, I want to be clear, it is not easy to make a misbid. First, you have to type in the bid, your bid amount, $6,700, and press the bid button. So right there, that's the first thing. And some errors are made there, but fine. Then we have a box pop up, and it says in bold what your bid amount is and precisely how much commission we'll be taking if you win the car for this bid amount. So that's there. And so then you have to confirm that. You have to say, yes, I understand, click bid. So there's two confirmations. You type in the thing, click bid, the box pops up, click bid. Well, the bidder didn't realize. And he clicked $67,000, typed it in, he clicked yes, and of course that was it. Now, we have a guy who watches the auctions as they close to make sure nothing bad happens, but he missed this. He just happened to miss it. It was a fast-moving auction. Tons of comments were coming in. He just didn't see it. You know, there's no great excuse, but it happens. It happens. And it was the same deal with the bidder. He was in the comments, said, I'm so sorry, I messed up. Yeah, what can you do? It's not like there was malicious intent here. Those things happen together. Our guy missed it, and the bidder missed it. It's just, you know, it's a 1 in a million thing, but that was the one. So the auction closes, and obviously now there's an issue, right? Because for the seller, we can't just call the guy who bid the $6,700 and say, hey, will you buy it for this? Because what if it had gone up to 10,000 or 20,000 or $1 million? Well, I guess we know it wouldn't have gone above 67,000, so it's a little bit higher than that. But anyway, you can't just sell it to that guy because it could have gone hundreds or thousands of dollars higher. So we decided the right thing to do here, a lot of thought, was to just relist the car. Because if we relisted it that same day and left like 3 hours left, well, the people who were bidding before might not realize that it's listed, and then there's 3 hours left in the auction. It's not that much time. So we decided, look, let's just start over at 0, bring it back, give it a whole week again. And I have to say, the seller was wonderful about this. He understood, not really our fault, great throughout the whole thing. And now this Eurovan is back for sale, right now, actually. And if you want to check it out, I'll link it in the description below, but that's the story of this $67,000 Eurovan. New Eurovan record. But this doesn't happen that often. In fact, this is the first time, like I said, it's happened. But it was an interesting occurrence in the last couple weeks, so I figured I'd bring it up. But anyway, that is the market update. Some Enthusiast Wagons, some high-dollar exotics, which I'm impressed by, and the off-roading trend of off-roadifying, you know, regular SUVs. Those are the big things. But anyway, that's that. Thanks for checking out the Cars and Bids YouTube channel. More cool stuff is on the way. We'll switch up the content and do some other things. I'm not exactly sure what, but stay around and you'll see, I guess.